Hi, and welcome to a new episode of the Let's Talk Melbourne podcast, where we have a conversation with some of the most influential and eminent people from the city of Melbourne. Today on the pod, we've got David Warren, who's been working in the financial services industry for a very long time. It's a fun episode, it's a cool episode. I hope you stick around and I hope you enjoy it. Hi, and welcome to a new episode of the Let's Talk Melbourne podcast. Today, I am really excited to have a special guest on my show, and I would request my guest to introduce himself. And also, before you do that, I want to thank you for doing this because I appreciate it. Because I know you have to run to meetings the minute after this episode is shot.
Vic, it's my pleasure. So, David Warren, General Manager of Superannuation Services at Equity Trustees. Your manager.
Yes.
So I'm a little bit nervous about how much my team is trying to stitch me up here with awkward questions, but it's actually an honour and a pleasure to be asked and to be here today.
Thank you. I can assure you, there's no stitch up. Possibly. All right. So, David, I want to start off by asking you. You've been in the industry for such a long time now, and you've got a great set of friends, great set of network. Do you remember the first job that you ever had?
Within financial services?
Within financial services. Or no, actually in general. When
my first job ever was working in a wool scouring factory. My uncle was a director of the firm.
Yeah.
And my dad, knowing that I was probably going to become a white collar worker, wanted me to experience a blue collar environment.
Okay.
And sent me off after the end of year 12 to go and work in the factory. And I did it for 2 weeks and swore never to do that sort of work ever again. And that was a
Was your dad disappointed, or was he like?
Oh no, he knew what the outcome was going to be well ahead of time.
Okay.
But it was actually a good reminder for me what I do and don't want to do in my career. And that wasn't the sort of work that really motivated me or got the best out of me.
Awesome. And how did you decide that you want to join financial services, or it just happened?
To be honest, again, my dad. To be honest, when I was leaving school, I wanted to do something that was mathematically oriented. Maths was my thing at year 12. I wanted to do a maths-based job.
Yeah. And
to be honest, he rang up AMP and effectively got me a scholarship as an actuarial student at AMP.
Oh, nice.
Over the phone almost. And I sort of figured if someone's going to pay me to go to university, then it's maths-based, what the heck? And it's probably one of the greatest things Dad's ever done for me, because I think the work, the career, the study, it was all right up my alley, and I was very fortunate. So I'm very blessed that he did that for me.
Oh,
otherwise, I would have become an engineer, and I'm not sure I would have enjoyed that as much.
Because yes, I was actually going to ask you that, because when I was doing my research and I asked a couple of people, and one of the things which is common from the people whom you have mostly worked with, because I think I know most people whom you've worked with, is that you're very affable and easygoing. I'm guessing you're naturally like that, but how much challenging you find that to be at a workplace as well, because so that everyone unanimously said you're an easygoing person to work with, you're extremely friendly and affable, and they can talk to you easily about it. Is that challenging sometimes for you, or do you really have to think it through, depending on the person that you're dealing with?
I think it's mostly me. I'm not sure I was always that way.
Okay.
So back when I first moved into product, and I was about 30, so I left actuarial, and actuarial was, I was going to say a shielded workshop. It's not bad. That's not what I mean. But you're dealing with calculators and Excel spreadsheets all day.
Yep.
You're not talking to people all day. When I moved into products, I had to then move into a world where I was actually dealing with people all day.
Yep.
And it was a very different environment for me, because as an introvert, that was quite draining, and I actually found a lot more stressful.
Yeah.
And so I had probably some bad experiences where I was getting stressed with people, and I wasn't interacting with people how I would like to have been seen today.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of managers who told me to go and learn some new skills before I came back. So I suppose a lot of that was take those lessons on board, go away and learn them. Sometimes, to be honest, a lot of things how I've grown the best is actually when you fail, you don't do things the way you want, people give you feedback. As long as you learn from those experiences, lets you grow. So I think from that, it's helped me a lot, but mostly it's just who I am. But a lot of it, I've learned that being stressed at work doesn't actually make things any better.
Yeah.
And losing your cool, losing your thing, just makes things harder. You can't lead people when your emotions aren't in control.
Yeah.
And if you're out of control, then your team's out of control.
True.
So it's easy to do with clients, easy to do with yourself if you just come. And I've just learned to just be that way.
And so this is something interesting because I wanted to ask you, you're very good at giving feedback, but you're equally good at taking feedback. I don't know if you know this about yourself. How do you do that? Everybody can't do that. I mean, I know because based on my experience I've had so many managers, not everyone's good at either giving or taking feedback. You're in the unique set who can do both. How do you manage to do that? Or is there a skill or advice or tips you would give to someone who should get better at it?
Again, wasn't something I traditionally was good at.
Yeah.
So one thing that came, so I've obviously got divorced, and when I left that, I probably had the attitude that it wasn't me, it was all them, and I was right, they were wrong. And
yeah.
One thing from going to counselling that I recognised that I actually wasn't perfect, and that I needed to actually be open to feedback. And a lot of that counselling was listening and getting that feedback helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And I've learned that at work that a lot of the times I've grown the most. Like I was saying before that when I didn't interact with people the way I wanted, I got strong feedback from managers. I could have ignored that and kept going the way I was, but that wasn't going to help me in my career,
yeah.
or those around me. So I've learned when people give you feedback, learn from it, but it's not actually a scary thing, embrace it. And so one of the things in my leadership style is I openly ask the team to challenge my thoughts and my opinions.
Yeah, that you do. Yeah.
And my view is the team that's everyone's views on the table, you get a better outcome. You're not always going to be right, and get everyone's views, get different perspectives. Diversity counts a lot, and those different perspectives help. And just be open to the feedback. A leader doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be right all the time, but you can take the team along with you the way to go.
But if I may say so, but everybody doesn't have the humility or the emotional intelligence to do that.
Oh, look, it's hard to do. So getting challenged by your team.
That's what I'm saying. It's amazing that you're able to do it so effortlessly because you've got the emotional, if I may say so, you've got the emotional intelligence and the humility to do so, right? Like,
I appreciate that, and it's something I've had to work at. And I think my advice to people would be to be open to listen to others. When people give you feedback, learn from that, grow, and source that feedback. The best way, I've always, falling down is the best way to grow and get better.
Yeah.
And you never learn if you're always getting it right. It's when you get it wrong that you actually learn.
Yeah.
And getting all that feedback is highly valuable.
Now, speaking of leadership, are there any leaders that you admire personally? Either it could be from your personal, professional life, or just in general, that you've looked up to and you've sort of emulated, maybe not directly, but bits and pieces from them, or from the leadership style?
Leaders that I most respect are ones that typically don't put their values on their sleeve. They lead by bringing the best out of their people and investing into their people and what they're trying to achieve rather than in themselves.
Yeah.
So externally, I'd be thinking people like Gandhi or Barack Obama would be ones I've always respected.
Yeah.
But I think we're really fortunate at Equity. We've got leaders above us that I think are great in terms of that they both have fun, they're values based, and they're seeking to do the right thing, and they invest in their people and bring people along with them rather than telling people what to do. It's a collaborative approach, and that to me brings out the best in people, and those I respect the most.
Okay. I'll just ask you a few more questions on your professional before you get into your personal.
Sure.
You've such an amazing career. Do you remember, okay, if I ask you, what's the best job you've had in your career, or the job you've enjoyed the most? Or are they the same thing, or are they different things?
The job I've enjoyed the most, my current one.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I've said this to the team internally and externally. The job I enjoy the most typically depends with the people around me.
Yep.
And I think I'm very blessed to have a team who I have great respect and admiration for. And I've got great leaders above me, and I respect them. But it's also, it's a job that I actually think is important, and I think it aligns with my values personally. Like we're there to protect members, to look after them and their interests. It must have been moving to a trustee wasn't something that was ever on my to-do list in my career.
It's also completely different to what you did previously? In terms of the other side of...
Yeah, it was, but the work's actually not that different, but it was actually on the other side of the fence. But I used to work with the trustees at National Mutual and AXA and stuff, and I respected them, but I never thought that was a job I had any interest in whatsoever. The role that I've got at Equity is actually very similar. It's just on the other side of the fence. So I'm actually dealing with the product people, and I can talk to the people on a peer-to-peer basis, and I like that. But it is coming from a different perspective. But it's nice to be doing something that is we're very values based in what we do, with great people. And the other thing that I enjoy the most is the first time in my career I'm in a company that's really succeeding.
Yeah.
So my career has been mostly National Mutual, AXA, AMP, and a lot of that felt like at times shrinking to success.
Yeah.
I did spend a short time at Australian Super, but at the time I was there, the money was just flowing in, and you didn't actually have to strive for it. It was just happening naturally. But I was only there briefly. Whereas Equity Trustees, we've grown something from scratch, and I'm immensely proud of.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'm here as well, so yes. Go ahead, sir. The other thing which you can help some of the listeners of yours understand is that you've got good experience in dealing with difficult or challenging stakeholders. It could be internal or external, and even authorities. By that I mean in general. What tips would you give in stakeholder management, especially when they're difficult and they are not someone you can reason with easily? Like we won't name them obviously, but we've worked with people like that. Any tips to anyone listening or watching, like what's the best approach to deal with such? And especially because when they are in powerful positions or your peers, and you have to be very mindful of dealing with those things.
First one was always keep your cool.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those situations can become very emotive, and if you lose your emotions, then you lose a lot of your negotiating power, and it becomes an emotional fight rather than a fact-based conversation.
Yeah.
So first and foremost is to keep it cool.
Yeah.
Second is to put yourself in their shoes. So just they may be being difficult, but they will typically have a reason behind why they're coming from the position they're at. Try and understand what is driving them, what is it they're trying to achieve, why they triggered or upset, and try and meet them where they are emotionally. Sometimes you have to empathise with them, work through those issues with them. There's an element of you do need to try and work out a compromise solution. So I seek to always come up with solutions, and that sometimes means you've got to get outside the box. Yeah. There's not always one way to do things, and so sometimes you have to get creative in how you solve problems to get everyone onto an outcome that works. But for what we do, it's really important. No matter what, we have an obligation to members.
Yeah.
We can't do things that aren't compliant.
Yeah. And
you've got to live those values still. And so no matter what, all that does, you can't compromise. At the end of the day, we have a job that we have to do, and it's important, and that's a line we can't cross. But doesn't mean there's not ways around some things, but there's only so far you can take things.
And it's always important to keep your cool. Would be your number one.
That's my number one.
Yeah.
Because
you're always calm and collected. You don't lose your shit ever. I haven't seen it.
At work, I don't.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Trust me, as a parent, I can very easily lose my cool. But I think work-wise, you've got to keep your cool.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't help any of those conversations if it just gets emotive.
Okay. My next question was going to be on your work-life balance, but then am I right in saying you're almost, well, not almost, you are a workaholic? Because you're sending emails on midnight, daytime, weekends. Would I be right in making that?
I'm not gonna debate that one. Look, I've always enjoyed work or study.
Yeah.
I get a lot of mental satisfaction out of facing into challenges and solving them. So yeah, I probably work more hours than sometimes I'd like, but I'm comfortable with what I do.
Okay.
I'm not saying what I do is what everyone else should do.
No, you never say that, but
I am committed to making sure I stay on top of things. That's also one of my ways of stress management.
Yeah.
Because if my emails blow out, I just get stressed and I'm no good to anybody. So
Okay.
I put in sometimes extra hours to make sure that I'm ahead of things. Otherwise, I lose my centre, and I need to keep it. So that's part of the reason for that.
But how do you unwind, check out from work and that stress?
It's been something that's been a bit of a challenge over the last 15 years because I've been single parenting, and sometimes investing into me has been sort of lower priority than say work or parenting. But for me, I need to exercise. Don't probably do as much as I should, but swimming, cycling, walking. I need to keep my mind occupied, and a lot of that's part of why I work is because it keeps my mind occupied.
Yeah.
So now I've started getting into podcasts. Let's talk Melbourne. Audiobooks I've recently discovered, and I can go and walk and listen to an audiobook, and it's fantastic.
Just fiction, non-fiction, or any kind of?
Typically fiction.
Okay.
For me, it's just a way of turning my brain off, and I think I can just get my immersed in the story, and I just.
Any recommendations for good audiobooks?
I'm a Tom Clancy or
I'm not surprised.
Jack Reacher fan,
Yes.
so I listen to those. But I also like doing things with my hands at times. So during COVID, it was woodworking and landscaping in my garden. Now, and to the amusement of many of my team, making terrariums.
Which I have one, and which is alive, by the way. Thank you.
Well done.
Yes.
Well done. So yeah, there's a variety of different things I like to do.
Okay, awesome. And lastly, before we get into your personal one, what are some of is there any advice you want to give to someone who's probably in their early 20s, wanting to get into superannuation, wanting to have a career there? Like, if you had the top 3 tips or top 2 tips, what would they be? Someone says who listening or watching wants a career like you have, what are some of things they should consider in your mind?
My career tips are always, number one, find a job that makes you happy and you enjoy. I think it makes life a lot easier if you actually enjoy your work. But also get into a company business that aligns to your values. Yeah. Because like if you want to be a CFO but you're working, so you're anti-smoking but you're working for a smoking company, that doesn't help you get centred. So find something that aligns to your values. Yeah. I think it's important to, for me, it's always been make sure you find a boss that you actually like to work for and can work with. Yeah. That's important to actually making your sort of happy at work. And I think if you're happy at work, it helps your career. The other one would be when you're working, don't give your manager problems, give your manager solutions. And that was a piece of advice that Ian Campbell at Days gave me. Because managers are typically their plates are already full. Yeah. And giving them more problems doesn't help. Yeah. So giving them solutions helps you your career advancement because you're actually already then trying to work as a manager and think through how to solve those problems. And your manager will appreciate it because it makes his life or her life a lot easier. Yeah. So that would be my key tips.
Awesome. Now we'll get into you mentioned you're a single father. Do you remember the time when do you have any memories of like when you first realized or you were informed that you're going to become a father, and if you can talk to that?
So you gave me a heads up, you were going to ask that question. I thought about that a lot last night, and it was actually a question I don't think I've ever been asked before. Yeah. And my initial reaction was when I got told about becoming an adoptive father, and that was highly emotive. I was at work, I think all my work colleagues knew my journey that I was on, and I burst into tears at work. And
did you?
yeah, I burst into tears.
Can I ask how old were you at the time?
35.
That's very young though. Yeah.
That's a big shock, because we were told you're going to get a child in 5 days, and we didn't have a nursery, we didn't have anything set up. So to go from standing start to you're going to be a parent of a 6-month-old in 5 days' time was shocking. But the bit that I was reflecting on last night, I actually got phone calls 7 times in my life to say you can become a father.
Wow.
Because the first 6 times was when I was with my wife. She got pregnant, and at the time, when you first get that, you don't typically tell many people, if any, because you sort of wait till you get past sort of the 12-week mark. Yeah. And we typically were waiting, but we had 6 miscarriages. So I had multiple different emotions through all those 7 phone calls. First time I got that phone call scared the heck out of me, because I can't want to be responsible for a little person. Yeah. And I was 29, and I wasn't quite emotionally ready at the time. Yeah. But those 7 phone calls were very different from start to finish.
And so you mentioned you had like 6 days or 5 days notice. I mean, of course you have to take care of this stuff in terms of getting the nursery set up and making sure the child, but emotionally and mentally, how prepared were you for that, or was it easy transition?
You had a fair bit of transition and preparation already, because you actually go through, for adoption, you go through an approval process. And that took 9 months, and you're working with social workers, and you're getting assessed, and they're interviewing you, and you're going through a whole heap of stuff. So you spend a lot of time talking about it and mentally preparing yourself, because you've got to talk to them and convince them you're ready. So it's not totally brand new. Yeah. But it's still a big shock when you get told 5 days time, hey presto. Yeah. And there's a lot of emotion runs through that week, and we got to meet Daniel. I think it was the day after we got the phone call, and he was with a foster family, and we got to go and meet him, and that was nervy as heck. But exciting as well. And but then there's this mad scramble. I went to one of the baby shops, and I spent $10,000 in an hour. Wow. And I had to sell up one of those. Truck the next day, set up the nursery. It was a mad week.
$10,000, wow.
Oh, we did change tables, cupboards, we just needed everything, prams. It was just crazy, but yeah.
So your son's now 18, 19?
19, 20 in 2 weeks.
20 in 2 weeks. And you've been single father. How has that journey been like? Because, we often talk about, or we don't talk much about how easy or hard it is for single fathers to parent themselves, because it's always rightly so, it's different for women and different for men, I'm assuming. But what's been your journey like? What were the challenges? What were the pleasures? I don't know if you want to talk about that. So that I know a lot of friends who are looking to be either adopt or have children, and they are pretty much around the age 36, 37, and they're single parent. I mean, there's some of the circumstances where end up they'll be single parenting. So what advice or tip, or even if it doesn't be advice or tip, what was your journey been like? And
so from time I started single parent from time Daniel was 4. So we was shared custody from 4 to 12. And so the whole time of doing that, I've been working full time. So it's about balancing things out. From 4 to 12, that was, to be honest, that was hard for me in terms of not seeing my son every day. So there was a lot of grief and angst of not having that relationship on a day-to-day basis. But a lot of that was then balancing, making sure I was always present when I could be, seeing if there's other things I could get involved with that's would mean I could see him more. So ended up, I became something I never expected. I ended up being a cub leader for 4 years, because Daniel was doing cubs, and that meant I could spend more time with him. So, so it was me. Like, the key for me was always just be present and there for the big events, and always prioritising him when I had to. And at times that meant work suffered. But
But let's just work, your personal social life would have also been, I'm guessing,
it suffered badly because you've only got so much you can do. But that's life. And then from 12, I've had Daniel full time, and full time with a teenager can be intensive, and at times, like, there was a period where I was dropping Daniel at school and picking him up every day. So I was getting to work at 10, leaving at 3. And I'd have to go home, do parenting things, and at 10 o'clock I'd have to log on and do our few hours of work every night. Sometimes you've just got to juggle those things and prioritise. And a lot of the men, I got pushed down the order at times, but you do that as a parent, that's part of the job.
Did you ever feel like you needed some support? Or, I mean, it doesn't have to be like physical, it could be emotional, or it could be social, or it could be any kind of support, and then how did you grapple with that?
Probably do it. I think as a single parent you always need support.
Yep.
How do I grapple with it? Probably badly, to be honest. I'm not good at asking for help.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the time I would try and just do it myself. And so that's been a learning journey by itself, of actually knowing how to reach out and actually ask for help. For me, that's always felt, rightly or wrongly, it felt like, I think it's showing weakness and stuff like that, and I've never liked doing that, but I think over time I've learned that's actually not showing weakness, it's showing you're human, and there's a lot of people who wanted to help, but I was just never letting them in.
Yeah. Well, in my humble opinion, I think if I can say so, I think your son's very lucky. You're an excellent father. So
thanks, mate.
Because we know, like, you do a great job. So, I mean, my dad is like, literally, he thinks he's a general of the military and I'm a soldier going for some war. But you're very patient, and so if I can say so, congratulations on doing a great job on being a dad.
Thanks, mate. Well, hopefully he thinks so as well. But look, I love him to death. He's a good kid. He's got great skills that I wish he can draw better than I'll ever be able to, and I just look forward to seeing his journey in life.
So one thing children don't appreciate their parents until they're 30, speaking from personal experience. So it'll come eventually.
Oh, it will. And
it's just the way of life.
It's,
so,
it's part of the journey. And he's had not being an adopted child is different. It's a different journey, and he's good.
Awesome. Now we'll do a little of a fun game.
Yep.
This is fun. I'm excited about this because I really want to know some of the answers.
This is the bit I'm nervous about.
No, it's fun. And so we play this Furious 10. Anyone who's listening or watching knows. So we ask 10 rapid questions. You don't have time to think. You just have to bang out the answers back to back.
Sure.
All right. You ready?
No.
Okay. If we go, the first question. If you had a dinner party guest and you wanted to invite 3 people dead or alive, who would they be? Could be anyone.
My mum and dad, because I miss them dearly. I've always wanted to meet Obama, so I'd love to have him there.
Okay. NFL or AFL? Because I know you're a big NFL fan.
Look, I have to go hometown. I've always been an AFL. That would be my first, but I do like both.
Okay. Now, if you only had to do one for the rest of your life, which one would you choose? Swimming or bike rides?
Bike ride.
Okay.
You get to see more.
Favorite holiday destination?
To date, I would probably, to be honest, anything with a beach and a reef to go scuba diving or snorkeling on. That would be Heron Island I've always loved.
Oh, cool. An advice you will give your 21-year-old self?
Be bolder.
Now, if you had to go on a date with one of these following women, which one would you choose?
Oh gosh.
Beyonce, Emma Stone, or Gigi Hadid?
I think I have to say Beyonce.
Okay. Now, if you were stuck in a lift with these 2 people, and you can only save one of them, whom would you choose? Adrian Cochrane or Christy Gilman?
I couldn't choose.
Well, you have to. You can only say one person.
I'm going to go down with them because I couldn't choose. I'd be
kill them both.
I'd be indecisive. I wouldn't be able to choose.
So you would kill them both rather than save them one. Okay.
I would try and save them both and either succeed or fail.
David, you're not giving me the answers I was hoping for. Now you're in your current team. We're all going on a offsite to a destination on a plane, and the plane is about to crash, and you can only save one team member. Whom would that be?
I can say one team member, that would be myself then.
Apart from yourself.
I would try and save everybody.
No, you cannot save everyone. You have to pick only one.
No, I'm not.
Mick chose someone.
Mick chose someone.
Yes, he did.
Well, look, I'm going to have to say I'm going to choose. No, I can't choose.
No, you can choose. It's fine. It's just a game. That's not going to happen.
Look, you brought me on the podcast because.
Oh, that's a pop-out. You would definitely not choose me. Okay. Now, whom do you have, and whom do you enjoy going to drinks with more? So, if you had to choose between having drinks with Ian or drinks with Michael from our team, one you had to choose. Who's the more fun?
I'm going to choose Michael mainly because Ian will kill me because he can drink me and drink anybody I know under the table, and I end up very, very drunk and very, very late if I go out with Ian. So I'm going to choose Michael just because my head's not going to hurt as much the next day.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, that ends. You didn't give me few answers, but that's okay. So thank you for doing that. Now we're almost at the end of the podcast. We ask all our guests 2 questions before we wrap up. One is, what is your anthem song?
I have 2, I would say. For when I'm a bit more upbeat, U2 Elevation.
Yeah.
When I'm a little bit more reflective, I would go to Mark Knopfler's Going Home.
What great picks, by the way. And what's the one thing you love about living in Melbourne?
It's home. The people I love are here, and I've always lived here, and it's home, and it's the best city in the world.
Awesome. So that's almost at the end of the podcast, David. But before we wrap up, what would you like do you think about leaving a legacy? And if you do, what would you like your legacy to be? It could be anyway, personally, professionally, socially, however you look at it.
I probably don't. I haven't really thought about leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
My key thing largely would be to being as a parent to leave a son behind who's a healthy and human being who's able to stand on his own feet and grow, and that would be my number one.
What would you like his future to be like in?
Look, I want him to just largely be happy, full of love, and to enjoy all the parts of life that he wants to explore. And I'd just be on the sidelines cheering him on and supporting him as I can.
Awesome, that's wonderful. So we are at the end of the podcast. I really appreciate you doing this, and congratulations on everything you've achieved professionally and personally. I know you're my match, but I can still say that. No, thank you. I think you're one of the coolest people I know, and I enjoy working with you, and I enjoy knowing you as well. So thank you. I appreciate you doing the podcast, and I wish you all the best.
My pleasure, mate. Thank you for the invitation. It's great to work with you as well, and it's been fun. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Thank you, and we'll tune in again next week for another episode.